let's start with Kenny Pickett. Your thoughts on his performance? Finished the night with obviously the game-winning touchdown, went 18 for 32, 224 yards, had an 88.5 passer rating. Meanwhile, George Pickens is out here, 6 receptions, 130 yards, 1 touchdown. Those two, they were a 1-2 punch the entire fourth quarter. What were your thoughts on Kenny?
Yeah, so obviously a slow start, but you looked up at the end of the game, and that stat line did not, I think, reflect what I felt watching him the entire game. You know, I didn't. It looked pretty respectable, and it felt like for most of that game, like, oh man, Kenny is really not playing his best right now. But I think the thing that you hit on a little bit, and that I appreciated a lot, was the ability to find the playmakers and not force feed them, but make sure that they got their touches. That's Jaylen Warren and Kenny Pickett. Those were, his 2 best playmakers, and he made sure to find them. And then even as the Ravens, started to key on those guys, he still found them, still found ways to get them the ball and found ways to get them yards after the catch. And I thought that was really impressive. And then obviously, he comes through in the second half. His second half, I think he threw, 150 or 60 of his 220 yards in the second half. It's just another one of those, Kenny shines when the lights are the brightest, when the pressure is at a maximum. And like you said, we'd been looking for that for weeks now. We had been looking for a continuation of what we saw in the second half of the season last year. And for the first time, he actually did that. So, I don't think we learned anything new about Kenny. I don't think he showed us anything different. And quite honestly, maybe not growth, but it was at least progress from where he started the season.
Yeah, 100%. This was the first time that I felt like, oh, Kenny Pickett Kenny's got something. Like, the Steelers can do something with Kenny. This was the first game that I actually believed that, that before this, and even for the first 3 quarters, I think, I looked at this game and I went, well, Kenny's done, man. This is, you've designed an offense, because my thought early in the game was the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing everything in their power to make Kenny Pickett comfortable. They rolled him to the left nonstop. It was like 4 or 5 snaps in a row. The guy would just roll to the left automatically. And you're like, okay, look at, they know that's what Kenny does. That's Kenny's sweet spot, is rolling to the left, trying to make plays happen. They were trying to do that. Things still weren't really still weren't really clicking. He'd have a good drive. Then he'd have a bad drive. He'd have a good four plays in a row. And then he'd have 2 or 3 really bad passes. And you're like, what's going on here? Like the whole first half of the game, I was like, this is classic. This is where we were. Kenny Pickett's not adjusting. I thought the game was going to get out of control. It did not, thankfully. The second half comes around. Kenny still looks a little hit or miss. That fourth quarter, that is that is how you win if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're not trying to blow teams out. This is not you're not going to score 30 points a week. You're not. And we knew that coming in here. This should not be a 30-point team. But if you could score 25 points a game or 21 points a game, and 17, I still don't think is hitting the mark. But if you could get to a point where you put the game in Kenny's hands and you give him an opportunity, that is what you want as a football team. That is what you want with Kenny Pickett. That's, at this point, the only thing that he does well is at the end of the game, he comes up big. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's all you're looking to do. I thought it was a step forward. I don't know. You ready to say Kenny's okay? Where's your bar of Kenny concern leaving this game? Scale 1 to 10.
That's a good question. I'd still say it's maybe about a 6. Like, I don't know. He played a good half.
Yeah.
Like that's really what it comes down to.
It was a good quarter.
Yeah, it was a really good half, quarter, whatever you want to say. But you need to see it more, and I would like to see it against, I don't know. He's shown me he can play against the Ravens, quite honestly. I would like to see him do it against, quite honestly, some better competition, and, for an entire game. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for some more consistency, and for him to be able to do it, outside of the big moments too. Like it shouldn't take, a 7-point deficit and 3 quarters of bad play for him to finally wake up and find what works. You need him to be able to do this across an entire game. Like it's fun when he can come back and lead a game-winning drive, but it's stressful to watch him have to do that, and it's stressful to watch those first 3 quarters when you're waiting for him to finally show up and waiting for the rest of the offense to come alive.
Yeah. That's where they are. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team. that they're going to live and die if the defense can get them to an opportunity where they could go win the games, and that's just not what you're looking for. I'm going to say my level of concern is like, I don't know, maybe like a 6. I think a 6 is good. 7 maybe. Like it's low enough where this was a step forward and hopefully calms him, but at the same time you're right. Like it's a game that we've seen before. It's the AFC North. The AFC North is a totally different animal. It's a situation where I don't know, like it's the AFC North. Like they're just different games. Like Lamar Jackson goes out and beats teams consistently and then comes to Pittsburgh and he struggles. Like that's just an AFC North thing. TJ Watt isn't trying to run fumble recoveries back for touchdowns unless this is an AFC North game. Like it's just the AFC North. Like it's a different animal. You're going to play better if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just what they do. It's what Mike Tomlin builds them to do. I'm still going to say it's a 6-7, not totally convinced in him, not feeling real good about him, to be honest with you. Like outside of that last drive, I don't think Kenny did anything today or during the game that I looked at and said, okay, look at Kenny's back. This is it. I thought it was a good step forward. I thought it was the perfect way to go into the bye week and be able to focus on football instead of whether or not I'm going to lose my job or I should lose my job. Or, I mean, the first half of this game, I was in my notes, I was like, okay, Steelers might have a Zach Wilson, Mac Jones type problem with Kenny Pickett. That was my notes in the first half. I think he shut that up enough, at least through the bye week, to give himself and buy himself some time. But you go to LA, you have a bad performance, we're right back to square one. Like this is a huge concern and one that the Pittsburgh Steelers have to fix right now. And I don't think he shut me up enough. One touchdown is not going to do it for me. I don't know. Do you expect it to grow? Like where are you sitting right now?
Yeah, I mean, you have to expect it to grow. I mean, I still kind of have faith, I think, overall in Kenny. He's still got to prove some things, but yeah. I think there is still potential and potential for a bright future there. You just got to see it. No one, I think, is giving up on him at this point. But if you're like me, you're counting on improvement. You're not banking on it.
Yeah.
But for my belief in him to be confirmed, it has to be much better than this. It has to be, like I said, a lot more consistent and a lot, just sharper across the board. And it can't be, he will not continue to have the leeway to fall behind as much as he does, even in wins like this.
Yeah, I agree. Like you're going to run into better offenses and better situations where you cannot do this. And when it comes to the playoffs, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are still trying to get there, you are not going to walk into this situation and come out a winner. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to do that against Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to do that against Josh Allen. You're not going to do that against Tua or Joe Cincy at this point is not making playoffs, but yeah. whoever the big name quarterback is, you're not going to walk in there and do that to them the same way you'll do it to the Baltimore Ravens or the Cleveland Browns. It's just not going to happen. My level of concern is still high, just like you. I don't know. We'll see what happens.